Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to the Spiral Arrow podcast, a little episode I would like to dub The Road to MK11. Right now, I'm joined by Z the Janitor, a personal friend of mine and a high-ranking ACGL player in the Southern African region. I had promised more players would join, but sadly, Easter holidays and people's timetables couldn't allow, but I'm sure the Janitor's got more than enough to say to enlighten the rest of us as to what he believes would be the future of MK11, judging by what we've seen so far. The Janitor, what's up, man? How's life going?
I'm good, bro. Can't wait.
You can't wait.
23rd soon come.
23rd's on Tuesday, huh?
Yeah, just after the Easter.
It's quite cool. It's quite cool. Sadly, though, people have been complaining that there are people with pre-release copies of the game.
But you know what? Right? Okay, like I'm one of those people that just doesn't care. I want to learn about the game, so like I haven't cared too much.
Yeah.
And the head start it evens out over time. I know plenty of guys, even in Africa, who got like pre-release copies, and they really didn't make a difference.
So wait. Before we get to the nitty-gritty, right? So you feel that why do you think the people who got these copies got them in the first place? Do you think it was like shops just releasing stuff early, or do you think people actually had to go speak with certain people behind closed doors?
Okay, from what I've observed, there are like some shops that released it early for extra pricing. It's
Okay.
even in Africa, there's some places that like release it for double price, like a few days early, which I think is stupid, but whatever. and then the people obviously, there are some people who've gotten gifts from NetherRealm, which I think is kind of, I don't know if I agree with that. That if because you're an influencer, you now get a head start.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
And then but certain influencers, like big, YouTubers got the game early, like they got the actual like collector's edition early.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of that. Like some people getting it from their shops, their little shops, local shops, and then NRS sending other people copies. So which is weird because then they're banning people still for the content. Like you can't post stuff online or they'll remove it.
Oh,
But
okay.
they're also giving people copies, which is kind of.
That the weird thing about it, now that you've talked about it right now, it's like, okay, fine. With the journalists and all, it's understandable because reviews have to come up early, right? So that people can buy the game or decide whether they want to or not. The players who get the games early, fair and fine. If I'm some top big YouTuber, I'm sure the company wants to use me to like influence the people to buy the game. But the problem with that is, what if I'm some professional player who was also given the game and first week there's a tournament with money on the line? Here we've got Z the Janitor is still waiting for his copy. I'm already playing it right now, but we're both playing in the same tournament on the 1st of
They
May.
actually are. They actually are. Like there's tournaments this weekend. There's a qualifier for the Summit of Time.
Oh, yes.
Like so, literally one of the biggest tournaments of this month is happening a week, like within the first week
Of the game,
and some people don't have copies that are going to compete in that tournament. So it's a bit weird. Like, I feel like they should run a tighter ship on that end.
Anyway, either way, my point was just that where it's like, how is that even fair? But I'm sure people will complain and people forget about it with time. But anyway.
Yeah, okay, well, that's true. I like at first I was obviously like, come on, what the hell? And then after that I was like, whatever, let me just see what's on, at least, get a head start on my character, whatever. It is what it is.
True. So, reveal event happened in January. I remember I watched it that night or day, depending on which part of the world you're at, right? And I was really captivated by the game because before seeing the game, of course, NetherRealms had made sure there were no leaks as to details and all those things. But we didn't understand, like me and my friends didn't understand what they could have done different from MKX. It was just like, what could they really improve? And some people would just be like, nah, they'll just keep the same mechanics and just maybe add one or two things, it's
MKX 0.5, like that's what a lot of people.
Yeah, because we couldn't really figure it out that well. Then it happened, and then they showed the game. The graphics, of course, looked amazing, but, we live in a day where graphics just look amazing all the time. It's now a bit overwhelming. But then I was also interested in the fact that they were now adding more game mechanics, into the game, wake up attacks, short hops, stuff like that. and
Yeah.
it was really hype. Like if we're just looking at the reveal event on its own,
Oh yeah.
excluding my opinions
Mhm.
after that, I was really hyped for the game. When you saw that, what was your big take? Like, was there a thing that stood out the most to you, or it was the entire package that was well done in your eyes?
The entire package exceeded my expectations. Like I did not expect what I saw at the reveal event. Like I hopped in expecting, like I was literally crossing my fingers for no run button. I know people like run button, but I don't like that. You guess once and you're dead.
Yeah.
No, like I need to play.
I agree with you there. There, I totally agree.
So I was secretly like no run button. A lot of people I know who like run button. I was just like no, no, keep it away. Okay, like we've had enough of that. And when I saw it, it wasn't even just that. Honestly, they just said no run button. Thank you, goodbye. I would have been happy with the reveal. The fact that they added so many things. What if they made it like MK 9.2? I would have been happy. But the fact that they added so many things on top of that to add to the depth of the game, not
Yes.
just to keep it like the same. It was refreshing. It was a very refreshing.
Very, very true. And
Yeah.
when I was looking at what they had added into the game, it's like I already started thinking about, okay, how will this play out in the future? You know what I mean? Like, give people time with the game. Will this mechanic be as good as it is now when I've seen it? So we're talking about stuff like the breakaway mechanic, the short hops, the wake up attacks, the just frame blocks.
I mean, even now, like we'll talk about the beta later, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like even now, you can see layers starting to pile on top of each other. So there's a lot of promise for the general mechanics of the game,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is pretty.
Yeah, very, very true. And but then the thing is, though, with that same reveal event, the positive emotions came with negatives. Funnily enough, some of the people who I felt would be so hyped for the game weren't actually hyped for the game, and I didn't understand why. So, like, let me break down the situation, then you can tell me what you think. For me personally, I don't know if you knew, but like I've made this known to like at least the people I play Mortal Kombat with, that especially with X, what you're saying about the run mechanic and the constant 50-50s, plus frames into 50-50s, I wasn't really a big fan of the Mortal Kombat formula when it came down to that, in that there are certain times where I feel like it becomes a guessing game, especially on your own defense. So when I saw MK11, I saw that there was a lot more walking, potentially footsies are going to be thrown into the game. And then when I showed the people this footage, they told me, my word, this kind of looks like Injustice 3, you know what I mean, or Injustice 2.0, or at least the general consensus was that Mortal Kombat was losing its identity. So do you feel like that 50-50 mechanic, that constant fast-paced gameplay and guessing, is what made MK what it was, well, at least within this recent 2.5D era, or do you think people were overreacting and didn't understand?
Listen, if you've played any other MK besides MKX, you'll know that that's not the identity of Mortal Kombat. Like literally any other MK game, like besides MK4. In fact, MKX had influences from MK4 and MK4 alone. That was the only other game with, that kind of rush down offense. So you look at MK9, the most beloved and the most skill-based MK game to date.
Yes.
It's very neutral heavy. Yes, there are offensive tools. No one's saying don't have offense, but you need to play well and neutral to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And with X, like when X came out, I was fairly new to the FGC. So X made you feel like a good player all the time because you always felt like you could beat someone all the time. A player who had better neutral than you could get hit once, get strong once, die.
Yes.
And that was fun. That had its own fun, and it kind of still does. That's the reason why maybe games like Marvel have their appeal. Obviously, they're skill based as well.
Yeah.
But that element of you get touched once, you mess up once, you die. In a different context, but it's still the same kind of feeling.
Yes.
So yeah, early on when I liked X, that was kind of the appeal. But as I've kind of gotten better at games, you want to feel like that makes a difference, and you want your skill to show, and that doesn't show. That really show in in a game like MKX where you get touched once and now you're guessing for your life, you know? So in a game with more neutral base and that skill can kind of show over time. And not only just like slow paced neutral, like there's offensive neutral. Like you can rush someone down in neutral and make them feel oppressed without necessarily pressing buttons up close all the time. You can be tricky in neutral, like Kung Lao. Like that's the thing about neutral is it opens up so many viable playstyles. In MKX, you couldn't zone. You couldn't be a footsie based character you couldn't be a mobility based character because I mean Kung Lao was strong, but not because he had dive kick and teleport. You know, they were tools, of course, and they had very good function. But that didn't make him special because everyone could get in your face in 2 seconds. So Bird Lao wasn't popular. You know, that's why people like Perfect Legend struggled a lot in it. Cool, you can get in quickly like in MK9, but like everyone can MK9. That doesn't make you special, you know? So, you know, watching MK... Yeah. So like watching MK11 and seeing how it shook up, right? I saw lots of potential for more playstyles, lots of potential for, you know, more ways to play the game. And a lot of people say Injustice 3, you know, it's Injustice 3. Anytime someone sees a projectile lately who's an NRS fan
says it's Injustice. So now wait.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask that. Like you're saying that it's mostly, yes, most definitely is coming from the NRS community side, right? Because I haven't really gotten the opinion of people who don't really like or play MK, except some positive stuff here and there. But do you feel like Injustice left a negative imprint in people's minds? Do you think that's why they make that reference?
Because I think it did, obviously. Like, I think Injustice was a well-balanced game in many respects, but it wasn't necessarily fun in different ways. I personally enjoyed it, but I can see why a lot of people didn't feel like, okay, like, you can just get in. Because there does need to be that element of you can do a lot of really powerful things when you're up close. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like, I'm not saying, you know, up close games should die. In fact, a lot of the things that I was watching for when the beta came around is this offense going to be strong in this game? Like, when you get in, what do you do? You know, and Injustice didn't have the offensive diversity that an MK tends to have. It was more, I wouldn't say cookie cutter, but it was more simplistic offense. Like, you got in and if you're Superman 4-2-3, trade 4-2-3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was very simple string-based offense. There wasn't like crazy cancels and, you know, this, that, and the other. The screen was much larger than an MK, so it did take a while for you to get in the first place. Like, and a lot of the tools that were strong in that game were kind of like, you didn't even need to play footsies because you either had this move that got you in with a snap, like with Catwoman Jump 2 or Adam Dive Kick, or they kept people away forever, you know? So those were the strong characters in that game. Like, you either got in whenever you wanted or kept everyone out whenever you wanted. So that did leave a sour taste in people's mouths again. So yeah, I can understand why there's it's Injustice 3 kind of, but it's more just knee-jerk reaction. When I first heard that, I was like, it's gonna blow off, and it did, especially when we played the beta.
It did,
because if you were paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I was saying most definitely on this side it did blow over, but the reaction in terms of it changing, I feel like didn't turn for the better, because most of the people who said this, fair and fine, have stopped saying it, but they haven't really said anything too great or too positive, or at least constructive criticism. You know what I mean? Because I feel like just saying it's Injustice 3 doesn't really help the situation. You would have to explain what you mean so that people can understand, or at least try figure out what you can do to make the situation better. I remember I once talked about it before. I was like, constructive criticism is a good thing, but people tend to just criticize with no real, you know.
Honestly, like, no disrespect to the people that were saying that, but if you think this game is Injustice 3, you either clearly haven't played it, and you most certainly weren't paying attention
Yeah, yeah.
when the game was coming. Like, I've played the game. Me, the guy who everyone says zones and is projectile spamming, whatever. Like, I played the beta with no projectile, and I was getting in just fine.
And
Like, this game is not keep away. You can play keep away, but that's the thing is, if someone can play defensively and someone can play offensively, someone can play in between, someone can play mobility, that's a fighting game that you don't want, let's just get in and, flail our arms around and whoever, has lands the 50-50 wins. Like, no, like, diversity. I think that them saying it's Injustice 3 was more them saying it's not MKX. I think that's
funnily enough, I think like what you're saying right now is actually, you just hit the nail on the head there, because most of the community that said that, first of all, were not MK9 fans at all, or at least did not play MK9. So their Mortal Kombat experience was MKX. So maybe their thoughts and decision making on that particular subject was diluted by the fact that the only MK they knew was MKX. So that's true.
Yeah. And definitely, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you wanted a game like MKX, there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, there's a game called MKX you can go play. You're welcome to go play.
Yeah, the discs are still there. It's not like the game disappeared. You know what I mean? It's still there. So I don't know.
It's still up. You can go play it. Like, personally, I want a different game, and I want to feel like I'm paying $60 for something new.
Yes.
Everyone kind of means other games like FIFA or NBA or whatever. It's just a $60 patch.
Yes.
Cool. So let's change this game. I want a new game here. Like, everyone says, Call of Duty, same game every time. Like, okay, fine. So now please don't want this Mortal Kombat to be like the previous one. Otherwise, what are we paying for?
Yeah, true. It will just be another Excel patch. But moving on now, reveal event had happened, and then we had the combat cast that were moving in February, March, up until this date, right? I had managed to watch them all the way up until the Jax one. I never got to watch any further than that. But one of the things that stood out to me during the combat cast were just a few things to note. One was the whole amplification system changing. That was like a big debate, a big thing that happened during the same time people were being flamed for the Summit of Time. And other smaller details, like I was taking note that there was once a build, if you watch the Cabal combat cast, the meter, the stamina, offensive and defensive meters had numbered values, and then that just disappeared. So I didn't know if that was just a developmental build that they were using and they forgot to scrap the numbers, or they'd actually wanted to put the numbers there, like your meters at 69 out of 100. And then they felt like,
it's still there.
It's still there now. All right, okay. But that amplification system, that change, I remember talking to RTK about it. He was salty as hell that they simplified the amplification. And I don't remember who said this.
Oh, so was I. Yeah, I don't like that.
Where they were like, if developers feel that doing amplified or EX moves is too difficult, right, by inputting those strings, in the next game, what will they deem is too difficult? You know what I mean? That was the general consensus, that people wanted this thing because it added depth to learning a character. It wasn't just like, if I know that down forward 1 is a special move, I just press R2 or R1 to amplify. Now I have to know it's down forward 1 and then a sequence after that. There's some thought process, and it doesn't apply to other characters as well. Then they removed that and said, oh no, it's too hard. Someone complained it's too hard. So MK12, MK13, what will they say is too hard? Maybe strings will become too hard and it's now just one pattern equals a string. That was what people were saying. Yeah. So what did you feel about them simplifying the amplifications, and how does that carry over? Because the game will release and the game has to survive. Now that you are removing a learning curve, a mechanic that increases the learning curve, how does that help the longevity of the game?
I personally, in theory, still don't agree with it. I feel like the argument that it's unnecessary, well, a lot of hard to execute things are unnecessary,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be in the game. Like cancel is unnecessary. Why not just press one button and have it run cancel? True. But why you putting these things in is so that you can't just pick a lot of these characters up in a day. What makes fighting games rewarding is that it's not easy to pick up. It is something that takes skill at a high level.
Most definitely.
Like in Tekken, just to be able to play, you need to know like high execution, backlashes and sidestep movement. Like you need to be well versed in movement just to be able to play that game. So I personally just didn't believe in this whole notion that it's just unnecessary, because it's really not. It's very necessary. But in practice, when like as I've seen it play out, it's not the worst thing, because there are other ways you can add depth to the game. This is just something that I personally found, because yes, make it difficult.
Yeah.
It can be difficult and have depth in neutral, because there is a lot of depth in the game still.
Mm-hmm.
But that could have added even more. And a lot of people will deem it unnecessary, but there's use for it, because at the end of the day, even some special moves have actually been made simpler. A lot of the game actually has been made simpler from MKX. My theory is that because MKX did negate the neutral, they wanted to keep a certain level of difficulty and then made up close a bit harder to do sometimes.
Oh, yeah, so that people just don't run in and their offense is easy to do. So it's like anytime I touch you, I'm already going to do what I want to do.
Exactly. So I feel like with MK11, because now neutral game is harder, a lot of the things up close have gotten easier with a lot of the characters. For instance, with Liu Kang, his bicycle kick in MKX is forward, back, forward, 4. In this game, it's just back, forward, 4.
Oh, yeah. So one less
input. Exactly. And forward, back, forward in certain situations is a bit, it's a bit tough to input. It does put a bit of strain execution-wise. A lot of the the strings that were a bit hard to input in MKX have been simplified. Run cancels also got simplified. So I think they're trying to keep it to a certain level of difficulty in their minds. But the problem is their minds are used to creating a 2-year game.
Oh, yeah.
That's my problem. Is all fair and fine. You want to keep a certain level of complexity and difficulty in your game. You want to maintain it. So if neutral is harder and offense is toned down overall, let's make it easier as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the level of difficulty overall that it ends up as is going to last 2, 3, 4 years. Now, there are other things you can put in place in the game to make it last that long. Like, with the custom variations, I felt added a lot of depth. They say they'll add them later. The jury's still out on that personally.
Yeah.
And the neutral game, I've played playing the game in the beta, it did seem like a deep game either way, and a lot of the flawless block is deeper than I thought. Who knows? No one's even touched, short hop yet. There's a lot of things that are deep in the game, yes, but you still want to ensure that it lasts a long time, and that went the other direction of that intent, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, true. But from your experience, sadly I never got to play the beta, right? But from your experience, do you feel like, given the current situation, how the game is and these mechanics, do you feel like they're still developing it to last 2 years? Do you think there'll be an Injustice 3 in 2021 with the new PS5s? Or do you think that, because usually this is information they'll never tell you, they'll never sell you a game and say this will last 1 year and 8 months, thank you very much. You know what I mean? Yeah. So right now we have no definite answer how long this game will last. It can be 1 month, it can be 10 years, for all we know. But from the community, maybe the people you've talked to, or how you feel personally about the game, do you think that it will last longer than the standard time, or do you think this is just another 2-year thing?
There's an actual official statement from the developers that says they intend to support this game much longer than that.
Okay.
I'll personally believe it when I see it, because you say that in year 1, and in year 2, when funding is gone, it's a different story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. When the publishers pull out, then it's your own wallet that has to support the game.
Work on this Injustice 3 time, guys. Let's go. Like, there's nothing. They pay the bills. You've got to go where they say you go.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I'll believe that when I see it. It does look like it's a deep game, and I think that them saying they'll add variations or even unlock custom variations is promising, but it's one of those things, like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. The mechanics are potentially there, there is potential there. Like I said, like if they did, there's another such like idea that I had suggested with Rodney when I was talking to him a few weeks back, where it's like, okay, fine, the Amplify thing is gone, and who knows how deep the game could be in the long run. But another thing you could do to refresh the title is with the complete edition or ultimate edition, whatever they call it. You know, that second year release they always make of the game when the DLCs are done.
Yeah.
You could refresh the game like you do with arcade, like you see with arcade edition or Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom. Like, give it a refresh, add genuinely new things to the game that might breathe life into it over the long haul.
Yeah.
That's something I wish they would do, and I hope they do it. And if they have intentions of supporting it for 3-4 years, they probably should. But another problem is the community. The NRS community is prone to getting a bit toxic here too. A lot of people forget MKX got very toxic, you know, in the Alien era.
Yeah.
Like everyone has very fond memories and rose-tinted glasses. And in a year's time, trust me, in a year's time, we'll be looking at Injustice 2 the same way. You don't think so now? Trust me, you don't think so now, and it's fine.
But then a year later, guys will be like, yo, maybe let's just go play some sets in Injustice 2.
It happened in Injustice 1. When Injustice 2 was coming out, everyone was now playing Injustice 1, no one wanted to touch MKX.
Yeah.
At the end of Injustice 2, everyone was saying this game is stupid. We want to play MKX.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting. I hope this community proves me wrong, but they have a tendency to throw their toys out the pram when balance isn't the way they want it to, or, you know, support isn't the way they want it to. You know, they get very frustrated and people say things on Twitter and everyone kind of boils over and they allow trolls to do their thing, and next thing, no one wants to play the game. The enthusiasm for the game is dead. And everyone is saying, catch me in Injustice 2, we're real neutral.
Yeah, people people always have that tendency of just saying, you know what, you can miss me on this one, you catch me. It's a way of escaping the problem. I feel like people tend to run away from the issue instead of addressing the issue. But
because right now it's the honeymoon phase. Like, we don't know what's the most annoying part of the MK11 meta. People still don't know that now.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beta there was hints of mashing. I hope they addressed it, because MK11 felt a bit mash heavy in the beta.
What
like,
do you mean? As in mashing out of pressure, or just in general combo strings just felt like people were finding it easier to just string people to death?
No, mashing out of pressure. There was no, because a lot of characters in the beta had highs.
Mm-hmm.
Very few mids, or the mids were double digit startup, you know, so you'd have, you know, 11, 13 frame mids, you know,
mm-hmm.
and the down ones are 7 frames.
No, so people
highs are, yeah, so there was no real risk to just mashing down one, because worst case scenario, you get down one back and maybe you're like -8 and you mash again. Why not? Because unless you're playing tight, you're not gonna catch it. Like, mashing is really a bad idea in the beta. I don't know about now, but in the beta it's like, why not? Or mash down 2. Like, literally mash down 2. Worst case scenario, you get checked with a down 1. Best case scenario, you feed them a crushing blow and then you net 300 damage. Like, you know, the risk reward on mashing wasn't very good in the beta. So who knows? Say that meta transfers over into MK11, and in a year and a half's time, no one has real pressure because we're all mashing out of shit, or flawless blocking up to out of everything. At that point, you know, it's very understandable. That the community as we know it now starts saying wins Injustice 3. You know, I want to actually pressure people, you know?
Yeah, actually, now that you talk about it like that, I never actually realized that point, because during the time they were showing bits and pieces of the game during the combat cast, they always made sure to tell everyone, no matter what character it was, that this character maybe doesn't have any good overheads, or this character has no good lows, or this character just has no mix-up at all. But they never actually ever specified that this character has good mids. All you ever saw were high strings or very slow mids. In the case of Jade in particular, this one I remember very well. Very, very, very slow mids. The down one was great, but very slow mids. So
they've got great highs. Like you know, to be fair, they did the highs well. I mean, you're already low profile.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do actually land a high, like, you deserve to get, you know, whatever reward you get for it, right? But the problem is, like, why not just mash? Because everyone has got double digit mids.
Yeah.
You know? And down ones they're not plus enough on hit, and they're not negative enough on block. That's a suggestion I've definitely made public. Like, they should they should make the risk reward on down ones and down twos high. So you land one, cool, you get your damage
Yeah.
or you get your pressure. But if it gets blocked or it gets whiffed, like it's my turn no matter what. I feel, unless I'm really bad or I just miss it. I miss the opportunity entirely. I feel like it should change. And I personally also feel like down twos shouldn't crushing blow highs. Highs are bad enough.
Yeah, most
like the highs are bad enough. Like, why should I now eat 300 damage when in the first place highs a lot of the time aren't real pressure? Because if I'm ducking them, like,
true.
I get to punish you.
Very true. I feel like initially when they were like, because they never specified like within the first maybe event or so that the down twos would crash all highs, you know what I mean? It was more like they would always say if you throw and they're down to you, that's when it's a crashing blow. Then with time it transferred to all the highs. Then I was like, but isn't that a bit much? Because the thing is, I've seen people point blank down to each other and miss because has it always been like
down
that?
two mash contests, like everyone's just down two.
Has it always been like that in other MKs? Because I feel like even though they were highs, they wouldn't go through each other. It just looks different. It's like as if I've never seen it before.
No, it's because mashing is popular. Because in MK9, low pokes were they were like almost combo punishable at times. They'd be -6, -7. Like you could get, like you lost your turn for sure. So you didn't see as much down 1, down 3 spam. That kind of happened more in MKX. And they're trending the other way with MK11. I feel like they're not trending there fast enough. Because it does sometimes just become a mash fest because both people say, why not? You mash out of my pressure with down 1. Okay, now I'm negative on hit. What else should I do besides down 1? It's not like you've got a good high. I mean a good mid.
Yeah.
So I'll mash you too. And then you get it, and then you start mashing too, and we're all just mashing until one of us gets tired or we get thrown or something.
Yeah. I hear you. It was just something I felt like I had to say. Because even a friend of mine, Justin, posted one of his Kabao matches during the beta. And he kept on throwing his projectile. And he was fighting against a Jade, and Jade has an anti-projectile special move. But the Jade didn't even feel like she had to use that. She was just down-twoing every projectile that Kabal would throw, and she would just go through it. You know what I mean? So that whole thing of we are up close, I low profile, and even if we're far away in certain situations, I still just low profile. I feel like there should be more danger when you whiff a button, whether it's more recovery or what, I do not know. They would have to balance it themselves.
In neutral, right, there are ways where you can bait the down 1 and you can kind of shimmy down 1s in this game pretty well. Like that's not, and the mids are fast enough that they do with punish a lot of the time. But for me, I feel like it should be different up close, especially if you're going to make a slower paced game where you need to touch 2 or 3 times. When someone gets up close, at least with offensive characters, they need to be able to stick to you, at least to some extent. Not just foot down on to be the answer, because it's ugly to watch. It really is ugly to watch. Like, everyone's doing these strings and then, okay, they cancel or they restand you. And then after that, it's just down one. It's just ugly to watch, personally.
Yeah.
So I hope they change.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those, in all honesty, my eyes will be on this game these coming weeks. I decided upon that I wouldn't get it before or on release. I'll just give it time to play out because I would like to really see what it is. I feel like if I were to make a decision on the game now, it would be just based on hype alone. And I don't think that's the best way to make a decision. If I had had a chance to play the beta or something, that could have been a good enough decision to see. But anyway, now moving on to the beta itself. People had hands-on time with the game. You had hands-on time with the netcode. You've seen how it works, especially here in Africa where netcode issues are a million and good internet is really hard to get. How do you feel that will translate to the African players here, whether it be in Southern Africa or Africa as a whole? Because you've got your tournaments like your Rise to Greatness, your ACGLs and stuff, which cater to a lot of players spanning a lot of countries. Do you feel like the netcode is good enough? Or is the game infrastructure as a whole, is it good enough? We can't say much about stuff like tutorials and whatnot, but in my opinion, there are too many games that do not have tutorials. You spoke about Tekken even though it's one of the greatest games in my opinion, it has no tutorial. If I were to give someone who doesn't know the game right now, there's no way I can help them to learn. But then you have lesser, and I put that in quotes, you have lesser games like Dead or Alive who have comprehensive tutorials, but then people don't give them the respect that they deserve. So do you feel like this game will be good enough for the people, especially for people who aren't good, or the people who never played Mortal Kombat? And is the netcode good enough?
Well, first, let me answer the netcode question, because the netcode feels like an improvement. Like it's a definite, significant improvement. I think because we didn't have private matches and we're basically getting matched up with EU and Africa, it was really tough to say, because I can count the number of African players I played on one hand.
Okay.
So we'll see that over time. But a lot of other people who had different experiences to mine say that they were doing just fine. There were guys in Injustice 2 and MKX that they had very difficult connections with. That definitely improved in this beta. But it's also a beta with limited, load. So we'll definitely see over time. But the signs are very promising about the netcode. Okay. In terms of the tutorials, if the tutorial is anything like Injustice 2's Complete Edition tutorial, then it'll be good, because it definitely taught people a lot. Taught people how to tech roll, taught people how to pressure, taught people how to, whiff punish, anti-air. It gave the basics. I don't think it's quite to the level of a BlazBlue cross tag or Skullgirls, but it's definitely getting there. It's an improvement. It's a definite improvement. And the training mode has gotten so much better. I've been seeing stills of the training mode and their frame data tools now that they've added in. They finally added in record functions. They've added in a lot into the training mode. And I would assume the tutorial, because with how good the training mode is starting to look, I don't think that they would skim on the tutorial either. I haven't seen much of the tutorial yet, so I can't give a definite judgment on that, but it's looking very good. So if you're a new player, I think there's a lot for you anyway, because NRS in general, they love jamming their games with content. So you have things to play, whether it's single player,
your stories and stuff to grind chests and money. Yeah, most definitely.
Powers, all that stuff. Like, you've got that stuff, and I think that the tutorials are doing a better job. And if what I've seen online is to be true, there's also a link to esports channels. So that bridge between casual to competitive is hopefully going to get, it's going to be a simpler transition. Because I think that that's the key. A lot of people don't understand why NRS, as one of the highest selling casual fighting games, doesn't translate so well to competitive. And it's because there's no bridge. Like, for instance, in another game that I play in, FIFA, you can go from an average player to now starting to play esports players. And then you're like, oh, okay. Like, at the start of the game, I was a bang average player. I hadn't played FIFA in a couple of years. I just wanted to get back into it and feel my way into the game.
Yeah.
And I got better and better and better. And then a few months ago, it was now to the point where, every weekend I'll play one or two pros. And then that gets you interested in the scene. You're like, okay, all these guys are sponsored. Oh, look at how well they're playing. I want to learn how to do that. Exactly. And then that'll transition you better. And with NRS, there's no ranked mode. There's no link to esports. There's no kind of smooth transition into playing better and better players the way that other games do. And I feel like that's necessary. It looks like they're taking steps as well. So they're listening to feedback differently.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we need to take a lot of more steps, in that direction.
Yeah. I feel that what you're saying right now is actually very true. Once you give people the opportunity to play anyone, you know what I mean? Of course, there has to be consensus between the two players. Like, if I genuinely don't want to play you, I won't. But giving people that platform where you can analyze the players, look at the ranks or whatever you want to call it, right? See what people are doing, watch their replays, watch their tournaments. Then you'll be like, that guy there, that Z, the janitor guy, people say is the best, but I feel like I could expose him. You know what I mean? And then you give people the platform and the utilities to communicate with each other and to match up if necessary. Giving those competitive vibes, the tournament structures, and making sure that the servers accommodate for people who just want to communication, I feel like has been lacking in some games. And I feel like giving people the ability to giving the people a ways and a means to communicate with each other, varying from different skill trees and skill gaps, right? That, I believe, is the beginning. My personal experience was this, an example of why communication is actually a good thing. I used to play Guilty Gear maybe from like 2016, 2015, right? No, 2016, 2017. In my head, in my opinion, I thought I was a decent player, right? Because I had no idea what the competitive scene looked like, and there were very few players I could communicate with on the servers. So in my head, I was like, surely if I've done most of the things the game teaches you and I feel comfortable in doing this, I must be average at best. Then with Rev 2, the infrastructure changed. You could get people more often, talk to people. I got introduced to Discord. You get to meet up with a whole lot of bigger communities, people who've been playing for 20 plus years of the same game. And you play them and you realize you are actually quite terrible, right? That was my realization. I was horrible at the game. It was pretty bad. But then that happened last year in 2018, beginning of 2018. It's been a year later, and I've been still conversing and talking with these same people who I had no right even playing. And now I'm competent enough to beat them on a regular basis. So it's one of those 1 year in a community that talks with you, shares information with you, you get to see footage, you get to play with each other. I have improved a world's difference as compared to last year. So I feel like if MK has that, and you're saying it does, like there's a platform for people to see and to grow, whether it be through watching or through playing, that will be a very great thing, and that can make the game last long. Because I feel like if a game can keep you discovering things years later, that's how you appreciate a game. Where it's like, yo, I've been playing this for 2 years, but I feel like I still don't know so much. Maybe I should ask the janitor. He can tell me something. Then I ask you, we start sharing tech as if it's our first day. That's the magical part about fighting games. I feel like the death comes when you feel like you can't learn anything else. That's the bad part. That's the bad part. Where you feel like, there's nothing to learn.
Yeah. With the African scene, I stumbled upon it, and I've seen other people stumble upon it who were not great at the start, and now they've slowly improved. And the more people you can get through the door doing that, the better your scene in general will become. You know, the competition level will rise, more people playing, more eyes on the game, more opportunities in turn. So you can't go wrong.
True.
You can't go.
And now just to touch on the last thing before this drags on, since the game is coming out, we've been talking about some of the things that have happened in the past, right? I would like to know, from all this information that you've managed to gather and your understanding of the game, what are your concerns, and what do you feel like is the pros of the situation? What are your pros and cons? What have you taken from all this that has been given to you? Moving on to this coming Tuesday, what do you feel confident about, and what's really scaring you right now about MK11?
Okay, the main concerns, I've already talked about the low pokes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that is there's a general consensus on a lot of things in the community. I think the breakaway mechanic needs work. Mm-hmm. It's a bit too strong as it is. Things like corner interactables, just a lot of things that people are like, no, this needs adjusting, and I think that we were all pretty much in agreement on those things.
Yeah.
I think the variations thing still sticks in my mind. It's what gave me probably the biggest concern heading into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen the variations now. A lot of them have been leaked online, and you can see almost everyone's variations, if not everyone's.
Yeah.
And it's tough to feel like it's tough to imagine a situation where you don't feel robbed when the game comes out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of characters, there are quite a few characters I know personally don't have moves that they had in the beta. Like for me, I played Scorpion. Misery Blade was easily the most fun thing I had playing with in the beta.
Yeah. And
for that to suddenly now not be there in the tournament variations, this has been confirmed. It's very, I don't know if that sits well with me. I can't, if I was actually a Scorpion main, I'm not maining Scorpion myself, but if I was a Scorpion main and the game came out and Misery Blade wasn't there.
Yeah, and it was just attached to an item you would put on your character, a piece of gear or something.
In casual gameplay, whatever. I would feel robbed, because it really does feel like, even with Cabal, Cabal has an air dash and gas mask resets and whatever, that are only now gear moves. So I saw a lot of really cool stuff getting discovered with that, and now that's just not in the game anymore.
Yeah,
Competitively.
yeah, true. I hear
So
you.
it's really
It was that issue that we had when we're like, was it really a good move putting default variations and custom variations in the same
definitely.
game?
It's the same thing with Injustice. It's like people stop getting hyped for trailers. It's like half the things that are in the trailer aren't even in the game. And even here, like so many cool things were shown to us in these streams that are we're now discovering aren't even in variations. And
Yeah,
it's really disappointing to see. Because now what you've done with presets is you've split the audience. Because there's really cool things, but those are only casual things. You know what I mean? So I either have to be competitive, try to be a sweat, and never play casuals. Because any time wasted playing a variation that doesn't exist in competitive is just that, a waste of time.
yeah, very
You
true.
know.
Very true.
So it's now I either have to forego that and admit that I'm a scrub and I want to play casual forever, which no one will do. Like no one has the lack of ego to do that,
Yeah,
or
true.
sit here in competitive and watch trailers and feel like this is useless. Like when the Shang Tsung trailer comes out, for instance,
Yeah,
who knows what's going to be actually playable? So you could have so many cool things that just aren't playable. I watched the Liu Kang trailer. I got hyped. There was this Shaolin like nunchuck stance that he had. I really had plans for that. I was like, okay, cool. I'm already picturing what the character will be in my head.
yeah.
And I hear that move is not there with people who've got early releases are telling me that move is not there.
My
That
word.
misses. You're sitting there, you watch the trailer, you go, my main, cool. Or you start picturing so many game plans, you start like low key even picturing your roster, and then the game comes out and that gets flipped on its head. The same thing happened with Injustice 2, where I had a full roster of characters I wanted to play, and the game came out and I played like two of them. It's really disappointing to see that. And that's what presets, especially like presets that are this strict, that are this limiting to per character. That's what they do.
Yeah,
You can't exist in a world where you don't feel robbed, or you don't feel like you've missed out on an opportunity to mix this move with that move and try this character with this thing. Like there's a lack of freedom about this that I still can't fully get over. I'm trying to be excited for the game, and there's a lot to be excited about, but that really sticks in my mind as the main thing.
yeah. Okay.
You know.
I hear you. I
But
hear
I
you.
mean, positive wise, there's a lot to be happy about because this game is looking amazing. The depth is still there. There's still a lot to be discovered. The presets that are there are decent. They're not great, to be honest. Like I've seen some of them. Not of them.
Yeah.
I won't lie. That was another concern. Is I looked at some of these variations, like some of these moves no one would ever actually pick.
Yeah, if they
But
actually
fine,
were to pick the gear associated with them, no one would actually have bought that gear.
No, not
Yeah.
at all. Like there's some moves that are just a waste of space. Like in one of Liu Kang's variations, I hear
Yeah.
he's got an energy parry. All it does is parry projectiles, and it's like I have one of the fastest projectiles in the game.
Why would
Why
I
would
want
I
to
need?
parry?
Like I don't care about the parry, but there it is, and I have to somehow force it into my game plan. And that's really inconveniencing. I want this one move. I have to deal with stomach all the negatives that come with using that variation.
Yeah.
But anyway, that aside, I think from what I've played in the beta, the neutral is great. I really like the pace of the game.
Mhm.
You die, you have to get touched 2-3 times to die. You can't sit here and say, oh, I got robbed.
Yeah.
You can't, because you're getting knocked down 2-3 times. Wake ups are so good in this game. There's so many things you can do on Ogi. Like you can get up, you can reset to neutral. There's so many things you can do to get touched before you get touched and die.
Yeah.
You're at least getting touched 2-3 times and you're dying, and it feels like you actually lost. That's the great thing about this game. It's like, okay, I lost because I played this wrong and that wrong and that wrong, and I can improve. And that's probably that's when you know a fighting game is doing well. When you lose, it doesn't just feel like you've been robbed.
Yeah.
At least if you're not completely salty, you can stomach the fact that there are reasons I lost here, which is a very good sign. Up close is good. That was a very big thing I was nervous about heading into the beta. Is they're saying they're toning down 50-50s and they're toning down pressure. How are you going to open people up?
Yeah.
That was the big question for me. Is it just going to be everyone just jockeying in neutral all game? Because that can get boring too.
Mm-hmm.
Too much of anything can get boring. Too much zoning, too much rush down, too much neutral. It can all get boring. So I like that when I played Scorpion, I felt like I could stick on people. I felt like I was running offense quite well. I could really mix people up, even though the mix-ups aren't huge payout. They're good enough to make me feel like I'm getting rewarded for opening you up.
Mm-hmm.
So offense felt really good. Feels really decent, but like not overpowered. Characters are strong. They're not vanilla. Another reason why Injustice 2 didn't do too well is, okay, great, the characters are well balanced, but a lot of them just aren't fun to play.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you don't feel like you want to play them. There's nothing unique about them. There's nothing truly colorful about them. That's actually fun.
Yeah.
Characters definitely has stuff. Cabal felt like he was really fun to me. Scorpion felt fun. Scarlet has her own things that you can enjoy. So Baraka as well. So yeah, it was overall. There's a lot from the beta. Actually playing the game myself that I'm excited to see in the full game. That game made me addicted. Like I was playing that game all day. There's just so much to like about the game.
Yeah.
When you actually get your hands on it, it's just I feel like the problem is not with the gameplay. The problem is not with with any particular character, or the game itself at its core is looking good. The things around it, like the fact that the devs don't want to give us custom variations, or they're not putting that in place soon enough, and little things like these early copies, they're just cause for concern.
Yeah.
But it could easily come out and be a very good game,
Mm-hmm.
So
I totally...
yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic, and rightfully so. I feel like it could very easily come out amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously we have concerns, and there's a lot of balance stuff they haven't addressed to us. They haven't communicated particularly well recently, so you just have to hope that things work out.
Move on. Yeah, the thing is, I feel like most often than not, it's more of the developmental issues that end up bringing bad things to a game than the game itself.
Oh, yeah.
So
personally, yeah, I think the reason why customs aren't in, I think it's just they didn't have enough time to balance them.
Yeah.
I think they're on a time crunch. You can see with some of the things that are happening, like how late that announcement was made in the first place. Like they were on the fence for a good 3 months. That tells me that they wanted customs, and 2-3 weeks ago they realized they couldn't make it happen in time for full release, and there's no delaying fighting games, till after Evo season. Like it's Evo season now, basically.
Yeah, so that game has to come out.
So that's why I'm a bit patient as well. But yeah, no, I get it. Time is definitely a factor.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I guess we'll see as time goes on. The last thing I would like to say before we close off is for anyone who's listening to this particular part, if they remember what had happened with Mortal Kombat X, not 11, X on PC when it released, came out, it was really bad. It didn't work. It was even removed from the Steam store and stuff like that. I feel like one last cause of concern with 11 is exactly that, the PC version. There was time when they were talking about we're going to show the Switch version, we're going to show the Switch, and that took a lot of time to be shown, but we finally seen it. I saw thumbnails of videos of it going down in the previous days. So at least the Switch players have an idea of what they're getting into. But the PC players, as far as we know, we have no game. Because we had no beta. There was no pre-order PC or Switch, and then you get put in the beta. It was strictly for PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
So I feel like what you're saying about time constraints is actually pretty much the truth. Because I feel like the Switch version, the PC version, it's causing too much strain with the developmental team, and they're just trying to do too many things at once. That's why you see games like Samurai Showdown, where they're just like, you know what, guys, it's like this. The game is coming out on Xbox and PS4 in June. Switch and PC, it's in the future, bruh. Just wait. We're not done. But I feel like NetherRealms can't afford to say we're not done, because they're the team that always produces quality on time all the time. So for them to have their first big delay on one of their biggest games of all time would hurt their image. So the only thing I would like to say, only thing I would like to say is like, be careful. Be careful, especially if you're a PC player. Be very careful. Wait and see. It's easy to buy into a game that might have substantial problems as compared to its console counterparts that will be working just fine.
Yeah, my input on that was going to be, if you've got a console on console, that's my advice. Buy it on console.
Very, very true.
And then, but if you're stuck with PC, the Switch one looks okay enough to buy. Like, they'll fix it. Like, it's Switch. Like they'll figure it out. Like Nintendo's not gonna have such a bad port. They're not gonna allow that for too long.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
most
think that
definitely.
and it's such an iconic console. You don't want those guys on your bad side for future releases. So
Yeah.
they'll figure it out. With PC, yeah,
It's a
I
danger
can't say
zone.
anything because I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what that port could look like. So definitely buy it on console.
Most
If you
definitely.
really, really have to buy it on Steam, maybe wait it out. Kind of see. Be
Yeah.
cautious.
Yeah.
I'm hyped for the game. I'm extremely hyped. It's obviously gonna be my favorite game of the year. It's already looking that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't in good conscience tell someone to buy it on PC
Yeah,
because
you
who knows?
cannot. You cannot. Anyway, that was me just talking from personal experience. Any last words before we cut it out, Mr. Mangena, the janitor himself, or should we cut it off right now?
Hey, follow me on Twitter at iHeartToMop because that's what I do all day.
You heard it here,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen. Follow this man. Honestly speaking, he is one of the best players I know. And I feel like you will have very deep conversations with this man. So please do follow him. And that's it for the podcast. Thank you for listening in. Thank you, the janitor, for joining us. And let's wait and see. Next week, I will be eyes wide open on this game because I still don't have it. So if it's amazing, man, you best believe I have to get it. So thanks for all this, and I guess for everyone listening, I will see you next time. And then I cut now.